What is up, everybody? Welcome to a special Saturday edition of the Big Red Machine. I'm going to apologize in advance if I have to mute a few times during this. I am very under the weather. I've got a bad cough going, and I might just hot mute a few times through this instead of trying to edit it all out. Welcome to what will be the sort of midway point of the off-season review. We've got a lot to talk about in what we've been doing here with the Reds. It has been a busy offseason up until this point. We are about to turn the calendar over into 2031. We still have some moves to go. We still have some things that we'd like to accomplish here in the offseason. But we got to talk about some of the things that we've done so far. There's been some big trades. We've made some big free agent signings. I want to give you sort of my thoughts behind them. And that's what we're going to do in this episode. So hope you guys enjoy. Let's get over to the transaction log. We'll just talk more so about the major transactions. I will go to the complete transaction log because I don't think you can see some of the decisions that I made. There's all my rookie signings. So I will take a look at some of the guys that we let go, which I think it's pretty straightforward why, but some of the guys that we non-tendered, Donovan Kelderhouse, Reese Oser, and Keegan McDonald. Keegan McDonald, if you watch the tier list video, just didn't have a very good season. We didn't really feel like it was worthwhile bringing him back, so we let him go. Oser was, a career minor leaguer. He's pushing 30. He did have a little bit of a good run. He does hit lefties okay, but we decided to go a different direction. Kelderhouse, another guy, just kind of a bullpen arm. I think he was looking for over $2 million in arbitration, so we decided to ixnay that. Farner, Brecken, Bazin, Tannen, Agilov all went to arbitration. There's the money they got. Munoz was not offered arbitration. Again, I hated to do that because of the fact that he does have the captain personality. But at the same time, we were like, it is what it is. I felt like, he wanted close to $2 million. Didn't provide a whole lot of bat. And I really wanted to have that flexibility with that spot, that sort of bench outfielder spot. I wanted a little more flexibility with some of the moves that we were going to try to make. So let's jump in and take a look. So within the first sim, not the first sim, well, yeah, no, it was the first real sim of the offseason. We made two franchise-altering trades. The first trade, and absolutely the biggest trade, was we traded Neil Siddle, Caden Giannichini, John Head, Clay Walden, Sam Conaboy to the White Sox for a Cody Mondesi type bat in the form of Cody Mondesi. Now, let's look at the Cody Mondesi side of things first. Multiple 50-homer seasons, big right-handed bat, which is something that we were lacking. When you look at our lineup composition for 2030 especially, and you look at some of our better hitters, let's sort by win. Segura's a lefty. Jones does hit right, but he's not like a big right-handed bat. He's more of like that second-tier kind of guy. Coons is a lefty. Krause is a switch hitter who hits better against right-handed pitching. Ledford is a switch hitter who hits better against right-handed pitching. Dainster's not a hitter. Agilov, we'll talk about that. None of these guys really matter anymore because most of them are gone or not part of the plans. So I really wanted to get a right-handed power bat to put in that 4 spot behind Segura to really give us giant power from both sides. Obviously, there are not many right-handed bats as strong as Cody Mondesi. Now, you will see, he did lose 5 power. I'm a little worried about that. He is 30, but very team-friendly contract. He only makes $12.75 million over the next 2 years. If we got in our park, where our park is actually, yes, it's a plus hitting park, but it's even a little bit more so plus righty. He's a fan fave, extremely popular, boosts our FI. there was no negatives to acquiring Cody Mondesi. Again, if he has a couple of average seasons, even if he hits 40 homers twice, I think it's worthwhile. I think at $12.75 million, I mean, that's less than Segura is going to make this year at 14. I think if he hits 40 homers twice, drives in a couple hundred runs, the big thing is he makes our lineup more dynamic. He makes it better. That's the big thing is it gives us more flexibility in our lineup. We get absolutely decimated by lefties because a lot of our switch hitters are worse against lefties. And obviously Segura has a bit of a downtick against lefties. So Mondesi kind of evens that out a little bit. I'm very happy to have made the trade. Now, I think the big W about this for us is we really didn't give up anything that I would call humongous impact. Conaboy is a 25 movement guy. I love him. Listen, I've loved talking about him. I've loved following his minor league exploits where, he strikes out, 14 guys per 9, 12 guys per 9, 14 guys per 9, 11 guys per 9. But he also gave up more homers than walks last year in AA. Do I think he has a path to be a successful major league player? As a situational reliever, maybe. As a starter, probably not. Especially not, in environments where a lot of teams are building power-heavy lineups right now. There's a lot of runs being scored. To me, would I have wanted to give Conaboy a shot? Absolutely. I had full intentions of bringing him up in spring training, seeing what he could do. But I don't think he has anything more than maybe a situational. Could he be a dominant lefty out of the bullpen? Absolutely. In the right park, under the right circumstances, yes. Clay Walden was kind of an extra piece for us. He does have some nice flexibility, infield, outfield. He does have some nice results in AAA, but I just don't think he was ever going to get a shot with us. He has that Everett Ledford kind of profile, and I think if Ledford ever would have went down for a long-term injury, he did have 70 range at one point. I believe he had 70 range at one point, maybe not. But either way, kind of a quadruple A player with Clay Walden. That might be being a little nice. John Head was a guy that we got from the White Sox in the first place in the Isaiah Godoy trade along with Guy Cote. So we were just trading them back to the White Sox. Again, I liked what Head was doing. He was making a bit of progress. We started to see some development after the trade. He popped his contact to 50. He popped his power to 55. The eye to 55. So maybe some signs of life from John Head. But John Head, if he does realize that potential, would be the one part of this trade I would probably regret. But at 24 and past a half, almost 25, hard to see if that's going to be, I don't know if I was willing to take the risk of passing on Cody Mondesi on the hope that John Head would develop. Giannichini's a 39-year-old. We brought him in from the Cubs on a $1 trade. Obviously, he hurt with the X-Pop, but that was offset by, Mondesi being X-Pop, so that's great. Probably got one season left in Chicago, and then that's probably going to be it. Again, we were going to opt out of his deal. He did have that was a team option for $8 million. We were going to opt out of it, but again, picked it up, traded him, and then you got Neil Siddle, who again we talked about Neil Siddle in the tier list. He had a great start to the year. He had a horrendous second half of the year. I just didn't see him being our long-term ace. Again, I think if he was to go to, I don't think he's going to be the answer in Chicago either. I would not be surprised if the White Sox move him. I would not be surprised if an Oracle team gets very excited in Neil Siddle and tries to pick him up. Because I think he could be absolutely fantastic in Oracle-type situations. He has had flashes of brilliance. No doubt in my mind. But again, it's just that second half of the season was just so bad. You'll see, he throw like this is a great example here. 7 innings, 1 run on 7 hits, no walks, 7 Ks in Atlanta, perfect. He had a great start against the Cubs. This was a hard luck loss where he gave up 2 runs over 5 innings. Did he have he had 1 start out against San Francisco, quality start, 3 runs in 6 1/3. He's got it in there in the right parts in the right situation. But I think for us, to put him into this, to make this trade, I think it's worth it. All in all, to me, and again, we have to see what Cody Mondesi does in 2 seasons. But to give up 5 players who 4 of them were not figured into the big league plans, and 1 of them I had doubts on whether he was going to be viable, other than maybe as a high leverage reliever. And even then, the movement could be a scary thing. But let's say you consider Siddle to be a high leverage reliever. A high leverage reliever and 4 guys who weren't figuring into my long-term plans for a guy like Cody Mondesi, you make that trade 10 times out of 10. Again, I am really looking forward to see what Segura and Cody Mondesi will do in the middle of my order next year. Stay healthy, my friends. Let's do it. In the same sim, we made another trade, this time with the Mets. This one hurt a little bit. We traded Afonso Santiro and Emmanuel Agilov to the Mets for Alex Andrade, Aramis Jones, and Max Zavarella in return. Now, obviously, Santiro, he's still a top 5 prospect. I mean, he's down to 14 now. He's 24. We acquired him a couple of seasons ago from Atlanta in the Kjamet trade. I really had hoped that Santiro was going to work out. I would have loved to see him pop and become just an absolutely electric, elite, power-hitting, 25 steal third baseman. Unfortunately, it just didn't happen. We tried so many different things. We tried moving him up to AAA. I tried putting him on the big league roster for a sim just to see if it would rub off. Nothing worked. He would go up and down around, but you see most of it is just the same. Yes, he popped some eye here last year, but you see just no development whatsoever. It's one of those things. It happens with the scouting discovery guys. It just doesn't work out. Obviously, Manny Agilov, he was a huge part of the Rentmeister trade, the very first trade I ever made with the Cubs. Obviously, again, and like I said in the tier list video, when Manny Agilov is in the lineup, he's an electric hitter. 302 career batting average. You look at his 162 averages, right? 84 runs, 42 doubles, 11 homers, 69 RBIs, 302, 346, 441, 61 extra base hits. The dude is a great multi-dimensional leadoff hitter when he's in the lineup. He is a little bit of a liability defensively with the 45, 55, 50. But when you hit like this, and again, he even hit better when he was in the lineup last year. 316, 364, 467. So he broke 800 OPS for the first time. He had 7 homers. But here's the problem. 139 games. Okay, that's great. He spent the last 6 weeks of the season on the IL. 111 games, 66 games. The problem with Manny Agilov is injury history. Being a 300 hitting leadoff hitter with 40 doubles doesn't matter when you're sitting in the press box watching the game. And I love Manny. I hated to trade him. It broke my heart. It really, really did. I would have loved to have Manny and Krause at the top of my order with Segura and Mondesi behind them and watch him score 125 runs in 2031, where he gets on and then Segura or Mondesi hits a jack. But I can't deal with this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 injuries since we've acquired him. Several of them, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 months. These are not little injuries. These are not, hey, I'm banged up for a week. He's got a lot of those too, which is also a problem. So ultimately, I look at, well, what are we trying to do? Well, we're trying to, one of the things I said I really wanted to try to do was I wanted to try to improve our defense. So if we are going to move off of Agilov, let's improve the defense. So we get Alex Andrade back. And again, there is some, I've talked to a few people. Some people love Alex Andrade. Some people don't like him. They think his profile sucks. And again, that's what you get sometimes when you talk to people in TGS. Everybody's got different opinions. And I love that. I think it's great. I think, there are several people I talked to who they thought, this was a bad trade for the Reds, that I should not have traded Agilov, that I should have, waited it out and hoped that the dice rolls of the injury gods went in my favor. And there are other people who say this was an absolute no-brainer, great deal. That's what you get sometimes. Andrade gives us a switch hitter bat who hits pretty much the same. He's a little bit weaker against righties, but not bad. 5 gap, 5 eye. That's not, a 5 contact. Like, it's a bit, obviously it's a bit splitty. We'll see what that does in the long term. But great defense. I mean, great is maybe a bit strong, but better defense than what we were getting. 55, 55, 75 is solid defense. Obviously, he has a little bit of development left to do with the gap and the avoid Ks. He is 24, so I'm a little concerned that's not going to happen. But again, as probably a bottom third guy in the order, I mean, he might hit 5th. We'll have to see what our lineup construction looks like when it's all said and done. But I like Andrade. We're going to give him a shot. We're going to see what happens. Obviously, he's still a pre-arb player for another year, which I think is going to be nice. But we'll see. Again, upgraded defense in the outfield. And again, with our sort of longer-term plan of transitioning Jaden Krause to the outfield once Noel Carlson's ready to play second in the big leagues, that's going to give us, we're going to go from 45 range in the corners, each of the corners, to 55 in one and 60 range in the other, which again is going to definitely help our run prevention. Aramis Jones is an interesting prospect. Again, probably not somebody who's going to play in the outfield long term, but again, has an interesting bat profile. I'd like to see him maybe pop a little additional power here. Again, I don't know what the future holds for him. He's only 20, so we'll see how he develops. Probably going to be a platoon guy who only hits against righties if he ever makes it to the big leagues. But again, an interesting piece. I like it. And then we got Max Zavarella, who's probably a guy that will start the season on the big league club. Again, while we continue to keep Krause at second base until we have a better second base option available and ready. Zavarella will probably be our starting left fielder for now. And I think, he's got an okay bat. I like him, not splitty, so he's got 50, 65, 50, 45, 50 against both sides, so he can put the ball in play. Has some nice results. Again, he hit 325 and 40 at bats last season. In AAA, he didn't have a great season. 55, 60, 70 in the corner outfield. Again, great outfield defense, which is what we need. Oh my geez, sorry. The more I talk, the more the coughs are catching up with me here. So overall, I think this trade could go a lot of ways. There is a timeline where Manny Agilov starts putting healthy seasons together. I said to TJ, I said, you know what? I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Agilov goes out and hits 325, plays 155 games, is an all-star. He's got that dog in him. There's also a timeline where these injuries continue and Andrade becomes a nice complementary piece to our lineup. And Zavarella, who's going to be a starting left fielder probably at the beginning of the season, and then transitioning to a nice bench role. I I could see, 5 years from now, either side having won this trade. It's going to come down to the engine and the dice rolls, and we'll see. But I like the trade overall. I hated to trade Agilov. I really did. But sometimes you need to make a tough deal to make a team better. And we really needed to upgrade our defense. Again, we had a bottom 5 ZR as a team last year. That's not going to help you prevent runs. We need more runs and more strikeouts, and just keep on keeping on. So those were the first 2 big trades. Now we get to December. Another trade here with the A's. This time we trade Harlan Lujan, Alan Lacheza, Rance McIntyre to the A's and getting Eli Stutz in return. Lujan's a guy who we've had a love-hate relationship with. He's been up and down and up and down. He keeps dominating in the minors, so we have to bring him back up. He had a pretty good season last year. 270, 321, 468, 21 homers. Very passable season for a guy who spent the majority of his time hitting, in the bottom third of our order. Had a pretty nice season. The big problem with Lujan is, again, his defense was something we were trying to upgrade. And as, we started bringing these other guys in, Lujan really didn't have a place. We weren't going to play him in the corner outfield. He's not going to be a DH. He's not going to be a first baseman over the guys that we have. So we decided to move him. I think he's going to be a nice piece. I think he fits really nicely in the Oakland lineup as well. I'm going to be excited to see what Sparrow does with him. I think he could be, he could be a really nice addition for the A's. Lacheza was a guy that we had toiling around in the lower minors. I felt like we have several potential catcher options that are better than Lacheza. Again, he's got a nice power eye combo there. He's got 65 catcher ability. I think he's got some potential to be a big league catcher, especially part of a platoon. I think he could hit righties really nicely. But again, I felt like we had several options in our minors who I would consider ahead of him. So that made him expendable. Rance McIntyre was a guy that I would have liked to keep. I do have a couple of guys who kind of fit a similar profile. The 75 range, 55, 65, 65. He can hit a little bit. 70 speeds. He can steal some bags. But what we're trying to get in return here is some pitching. Is Eli Stutz the perfect pitching option? No. But with pitching as scarce and as expensive as it is, to trade 3 guys who do not immediately fit into the big league plans for a guy who can immediately slot into our rotation somewhere, you got to make that deal. Stutz, again, he is under contract for 2 years. The player option for 2032, we'll have to deal with that when it comes. There's nothing we can do there. Let's hope he sticks around. 60, 55, 55 with 3 elite pitches. Obviously, the big concern here is the 45 stamina. But is that a big concern? 45 stamina, when we look at what he did, last year, some of these are in the playoffs, but 6 innings, 6 innings, 6 innings, 6 innings. Regular season, the back half of the regular season, he was being used as a reliever. But you look at when he is starting, he's throwing 6 innings regularly, 7 innings here. So again, I think part of our strategy, and we're not done with the bullpen building yet. I'm still chasing a couple of really big names on the free agent market. So if I can get 5 good innings out of Stutz, we're going to have the bullpen arms behind them to be able to shut it down. That is a big focus. So again, Stutz is not the perfect answer. I don't think he's ever going to roll down and be an ace. But again, for what we gave up, for what we got, I think it's a good trade. There is a timeline where Stutz ends up having 2 really good seasons. And there's also a timeline where, that ends up being $28 million that we might be wasted. It's hard. It's going to be hard to say. Well, it'll be interesting to see. He's got some mixed results, but last year was maybe one of his worst seasons. Maybe he ends up being someone who is better suited to be in the bullpen long term, but given the lack of starting pitching options we have, I don't think that's an option I'm going to consider right out of the gate. So again, another big trade. We bring in a starter. Cool. When we get to some of the other things that have happened, we'll talk about that one last, actually. We made a minor deal with the Phillies. We sent the Phillies $500K. We got Dylan Hebert. Just a guy that I wanted to have, an extra arm that I wanted to have with some options. Again, $500K, $500,000 to get a guy that, my AAA is a little thin on replacement level talent. So again, this is a guy that, he's got a good personality. He's got a couple great pitches. He's got a nice profile. If we have some injuries at the big league level, he can come up. This is just a depth move for me. We traded Adriel DeAngelis and Carlos Pando and $69 to the Astros for Aaron Kroll. This is another give me pitching options. DeAngelis, again, a 75 range guy with a noodle bat. Again, he's 26, so, his window of usefulness probably expiring for us. Carlos Pando is an interesting profile 17-year-old who, he's ages away from ever being on my radar. He could be a nice third baseman down the road, maybe. Again, Aaron Kroll is a lot like Stutz. 3 decent ratings with 60, 55, 55. He's got fastball, slider, changeup. He is going to be... Now, he's got the starter tag, and I'm actually considering him more for a bullpen role simply because of the drop to 50 stuff. I feel like, in reality, we might be heading towards a situation where we're going to be using one or more openers. And Kroll could be the kind of guy that could be a follower. We could go lefty opener, righty follower. He's got a good profile. He's got the spark plug personality. Our even though we brought in all of these new guys, our team chemistry is still very good, which is nice. So again, Kroll, this is all just bringing in pitching options, and again, he's a quality option. He's not a nothing burger. He had a really nice season in AAA for Colorado as a starter. So we will see if we can kind of translate that over. I'm assuming by Colorado AAA. That's Columbus. I seen the call. There's way too many teams in this that have call as their abbreviation. So we'll see where this goes. Again, good piece. I think he could be a nice long man in the bullpen. He could start if we needed him to. And then speaking of starters, our first real big free agent signing, Ken Jacobson, signs to a 4-year, $80 million deal with a player opt-out in the middle. I believe there's maybe a joke to be made here about player options and guaranteeing that he's going to opt out after 2 years, but I'll be honest, I'm not really super concerned about it. I gave him an out, but again, if we end up having to go the distance on this thing, he's only going to be 32, so knock on wood, the likelihood of him deteriorating into nothing is not super high due to age. Again, is this a bit of an overpay? Absolutely. But I think all pitching is an overpay in TGS. I really do. It's so scarce in certain situations. And to be honest, I talked Trey, you look at, you get a guy like Kroll, sure, and a guy like Stutz, sure. But, you look at Jacobson, he's got 6 pitches, 60, 55, 55 as a starter. He has struggled. He struggled in St. Louis last year. There is, this could be sunk cost. It really could. But, we had the money. These are the sort of moves you have to make sometimes. It does not cripple us for future seasons. It doesn't cripple any of our spending for this season. We still have a lot of budget left. This is one of those deals that, you know what, it's you have to make them, I feel like. This is one of those, to give you insight into where my thinking is, right? This is one of those, we're on the verge of turning the corner. We improved by 15 wins last year. And I told you guys, I said my mission in this offseason, I broke it down in one of the previous episodes, right? One of the big things for me this offseason was we need to give up fewer runs. And obviously it's not that simple. But my entire goal, I told you guys, somebody asked, like, what's the I think in the Q&A episode, like, what's the definition of success and whatever. I look at the standings, and 10 more wins and we would have been in a playoff spot. 84 wins got into the playoffs in the National League. So when I look at it and I think, okay, where do we get 10 wins from? We have a top 3 offense, which has, I don't even say arguably, we have a top 3 offense which has gotten better with additions of Mondesi and Andrade. We still don't have a catcher, but we'll sort that out later. So our top 3 offense has gotten better. So where do we get the 10 wins from? We got to give up fewer runs. And I think how we're going to do that is we're going to allow fewer base runners, which means we need to increase our strikeouts. When you look at our strikeout counts for last year, it was not great. We were 13th. We need to get that up into the mid-range, 7th, 8th in strikeouts. We need to allow fewer base runners. We have a plus hitter park. Putting balls in play is not going to be a good result for us. We're never going to have a great BABIP. It's just not going to happen. We need more strikeouts. So we've tried to address that. And then we need to improve the defense, which, again, we've tried to address that as well. We've increased the defense in the corner outfields. We're going to deploy a kind of a strategic alignment. We're going to pick who plays first based on, Mondesi's likely to play first because he's slightly better defensively than Segura. So all of those things are starting to add up. Now, again, what it comes down to is 2 things. There's still a lot of offseason to go. And the teams around us have been making improvements. And the dice rolls. Can we get some dev luck? Can we get some good dice rolls when the season starts? There are people who publicly and privately are like, oh, we're buying into the Reds, we're buying into the Reds, we're buying into the Reds. And I mean, thank you, I appreciate it. But to me, there's still a long way we have to go. Being dead last in runs against, starters ERA, FIP, pitching WAR, defensive efficiency, and zone rating is not. You're not going to turn those around in one off season. You're just not. It's not feasible. Again, if we could improve, even if we gave up 100 fewer runs, we would be plus 38. Is that enough to get us into the playoffs? Is that enough to get to 84 wins? Maybe. I think it's just, we're making these moves and it's onward and upward and forward. Some of these moves are not going to work out. That's the nature of the game sometimes. That's just the way we have to look at it. There's a lot of offseason left to go. There is still some outstanding offers for some big name players that I'm looking at and upping every sim because we're in some heated battles. But again, I'm looking forward to this season. I think we have reached a position where, and I want to say this the right way to really convey what I'm thinking. I think we've reached a state where the Reds can be a competitive team. Not necessarily like playoff competitive, but like just competitive in general. Do I think we can exceed 74 wins? Well, our team is better today than it was when the season ended. So 1 + 1 = 2. So yes, but a lot of things can happen. You need injury luck. You need good dice rolls. You need some dev luck. So we'll see. Let's see what we do from here. But it's been a very fun offseason to this point. I'm hoping that, as we get into offseason week 2 and the calendar turns over, that things continue to go our way. I don't think there was any minor kind of things that I wanted to mention. The J.C. Roberson trade with the Angels was purely cash for a depth bat to probably store in the minors. Although he is a Rule 5 player, so if he doesn't win a job at a spring training, he's going back to wherever he came from. I think that's probably it. I don't think we made our first ever international free agent signing with center fielder Leo Amaya, who we immediately sent to the Puerto Rican Winter League, where he's hitting .276. I will spare you having to give a complete update on how the Puerto Rican Winter League is going. All I will tell you is that the Reds are in first place. I believe still. Yep, 16-4, baby. Vinny Thompson's got 6 yaks. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of Big Red Machine. I will probably not do another episode until the off season is over and we're kind of getting into spring training-ish. And I have something a little special up the old sleeve coming up as well. So thank you guys for watching. Until next time, keep swinging for the fences.